Hey there, welcome to our cozy little corner of the internet. Tonight we're going to embark on a gentle journey through time, a soothing exploration of a fascinating aspect of medieval life that might just surprise you and help you drift off to sleep. Imagine for a moment you're feeling thirsty, right? Now you'd probably reach for a glass of water without even thinking about it. It's just what we do, but what if? I told you that for centuries the most common, safest, and even healthiest drink wasn't water at all. As you settle in for this calm adventure, let your body relax. Feel your shoulders soften. Take a slow, quiet breath in and out. Just like that, we're stepping back in time to a world very different from our own. Picture a place without modern water treatment, no fancy plumbing, bringing clean filtered water right to your tap every sip from a well or river carried. Hidden dangers in this world, a different kind of drink, became the go-to choice for staying. Hydrated, something brewed from grains enjoyed by everyone from the poorest peasant to the wealthiest noble, from sunrise to sunset. That's right, we're talking about medieval beer, or ale, as they often called it now. I know what you're thinking. Constant beer drinking sounds a bit much, maybe even irresponsible. But for medieval folks, it wasn't about getting tipsy. It was about staying alive, getting the energy they needed, and sharing moments of quiet comfort with others. Their daily drink wasn't born from leisure, but from the raw, unfiltered needs of their time. It's a reminder that what we consider normal is really just a product of when and where we live. Tonight we're going to gently flip through the pages of history, discovering the fascinating reasons why medieval people reached for a mug of ale instead of a simple cup of water. We'll explore how this humble beverage shaped their lives, and maybe, just maybe, it'll offer us a new perspective on our own world. My hope is that by understanding their world, by letting your mind wander through these curious historical moments, you'll find a sense of calm fascination within yourself. Let this journey guide you towards deep restorative rest. This isn't just a history lesson. It's a peaceful reflection, a soothing whisper from the past, inviting us to marvel at the clever yet simple ways people adapted to their surroundings. So take another slow, quiet breath. Let your body feel heavy and safe as we begin our peaceful journey into the slumber of forgotten times. First, let's set the scene. Close your eyes, if you'd like, and picture a small medieval village. The air is thick with the scent of wood smoke and fresh bread. The streets are narrow and muddy, lined with timber-framed houses, their thatched roofs golden in the early morning light. As the village slowly wakes up, you notice something peculiar. Instead of reaching for water jugs, people are filling wooden cups and leather flasks with a golden brown liquid. That's right, it's ale, and it's not just the adults. Children, too, are sipping from small mugs as they start their day. You might be wondering, why on earth would they do this? Well, my friend, that's the heart of our story. You see, in medieval times, water wasn't always safe to drink. Rivers and wells were often contaminated with all sorts of nasty things that could make you very sick. But the process of brewing ale killed off many of those harmful bacteria, making it a much safer option. But safety wasn't the only reason. Ale was more than just a drink. It was food in liquid form, packed with calories and nutrients that helped people get through long days of hard physical labor. A mug of ale could give you the energy boost you needed to plow a field, tend to livestock, or work in a smoky forge. And let's not forget the social aspect. Sharing a drink was a way to bond with your neighbors, to mark important moments in life, from births to weddings to funerals. Ale was there a constant companion through the ups and downs of medieval existence. Picture this scene. The weight of history wraps around you like a cozy blanket. Just take a moment to soak it all in, and let the soft sounds of village life gently rock you into a peaceful daydream. Isn't that nice? In our next part, we'll delve deeper into the fascinating world of medieval brewing. But for now, just let yourself drift gently on the currents of time, feeling the slow, steady rhythm of a world long past, where the simple act of sharing a drink could mean the difference between life and death, comfort and hardship, community and isolation, contamination sources, sewage waste, bacteria. The smell, oh, it's a fragrant symphony, a subtle blend of unwashed bodies, animal dung, and the lingering aroma of last night's pottage. It's enough to make your eyes water, but hey, at least you're not dead. Yet welcome to medieval Europe, where every day is a struggle for survival and clean water is about as common as a unicorn. Now let's dive into the murky depths of medieval water sources and why they were about as safe as juggling knives while blindfolded. Picture this, you're thirsty after a long day of toiling in the fields. You stumble over to the nearest stream, eager to quench your thirst. The water looks clear enough, sparkling in the sunlight. But what you can't see is the invisible army of microbes waiting to wage war on your insides. You see, in the year 1400, the concept of proper sanitation was about as foreign as the idea of flying to the moon. Cities and villages were essentially open sewers. Human waste, animal droppings, and all manner of filth flowed freely through the streets and into the nearest water source. Imagine a river snaking its way through a bustling medieval town. On the surface, it might look peaceful enough, but beneath that deceptively calm exterior, it's carrying a toxic cocktail of human and animal waste, rotting food, and who knows what else. And it's not just the rivers. Even wells, which you might think would be safer, were often contaminated by seepage from nearby cesspits and middens. That's right, your local water source was essentially a giant toilet bowl with a dash of animal carcass for flavor. But here's the kicker. The people of the Middle Ages had no idea why their water was making them sick. They couldn't see the bacteria, the viruses, the parasites lurking in every drop. To them, water was water. If it looked clean, it must be safe, right? Oh, how wrong they were. It's like playing Russian roulette every time you take a sip. Only instead of a bullet, you're risking a nasty bout of dysentery or typhoid. And it's not just about what you can see, or rather what you can't see. It's about what you can smell and taste too, that earthy flavor you detect. That's not the refreshing taste of nature, my friend. That's the flavor of countless microscopic organisms having a party in your mouth, and that subtle aroma wafting up from the stream. That's not the scent of fresh water. That's the smell of decay and disease. Now you might be thinking, surely they must have realized something was wrong when people kept getting sick after drinking the water. But here's the thing, medieval folks had a very different understanding of how diseases spread. They believed in things like bad air or an imbalance of bodily humors. The idea that tiny, invisible creatures in the water could be making them ill. That was as alien to them as the concept of smartphones would be. So picture this, you're a medieval peasant. You've just drunk from the local well, feeling quite pleased with yourself for finding such a clear, cool source of water. Little do you know you've just ingested enough bacteria to start a small plague in your gut. In a few days, you'll be struck down with violent stomach cramps, fever, and diarrhea, but you won't connect it to that innocent-looking water. Oh no, you'll probably blame it on evil spirits or God's punishment for that time you coveted your neighbor's cow. This constant exposure to contaminated water was like living with a silent killer, always present, always threatening, but never fully understood. The quiet suffering of waterborne illnesses was just a part of daily life, a grim reality that people had to accept, because what other choice did they have? It's not like they could pop down to the local store and pick up a bottle of purified spring water. And let's not forget about the lovely parasites that called these water sources home. Imagine taking a refreshing drink only to unknowingly invite a tapeworm to take up residence in your intestines, or how about some lovely liver flukes to spice up your life? These unwelcome guests could live inside you for years, slowly draining your health and vitality. It's like having the worst roommate ever, only you can't kick them out, and they're living inside your body. But wait, it gets even better. Remember those lovely open sewers we talked about earlier? Well, when it rained, all that filth would get washed into the water sources, and during dry spells, the water levels would drop, concentrating all those lovely pathogens into an even more potent brew. It was like nature's way of creating the world's most disgusting soup, and people had no choice but to drink it. Now you might be wondering, how on earth did anyone survive? Well, the sad truth is, many didn't. Infant mortality was sky high, and life expectancy was brutally short, and a significant portion of those deaths can be attributed to waterborne diseases. It's a sobering thought that something as simple as clean water, something we take for granted, today was a luxury beyond imagination for our medieval ancestors. Humans are pretty amazing when it comes to adapting, right? Faced with the dangers of drinking water back in the day, they really got creative. One of the coolest solutions was the rise of beer as a daily drink. Now don't get the wrong idea, medieval Europe wasn't just one big frat party, I promise. Brewing beer involved boiling water, which was a game changer because it killed off a lot of nasty microorganisms lurking in the water. Sure, it wasn't a perfect fix, but it was definitely a safer bet than sipping straight from a potentially contaminated stream. Imagine villagers gathering at the local tavern, raising their mugs, and sharing stories, all while enjoying a drink that was way less risky than plain old water. It's wild to think how something as simple as beer became a lifeline for so many. Next time you turn on your tap and watch that clean, clear water gushing out, take a moment to really appreciate it, okay? It's wild to think about how our medieval ancestors had it. For them, getting a simple drink of water was like rolling the dice on their lives. Every sip could have been their last, you know? Imagine walking miles just to fill a bucket from a murky well, not knowing if it was safe. The danger was real back then. Contaminated water could lead to all sorts of nasty illnesses. So yeah, the true peril of purity in the Middle Ages was a serious issue. Water, the very thing we need to survive, could easily turn into a death sentence. How crazy is that? As we leave behind the murky waters of medieval Europe, let's turn our attention to the clever solution our ancestors stumbled upon. How did they manage to transform this deadly liquid into something safer to drink? What was the alchemical process that turned perilous water into a comforting beverage? Join me as we delve into the magic of boiling and discover the secret behind brewing success in the Middle Ages. It's a tale of necessity, invention, and a dash of accidental genius that would change the course of human history and hydration forever. Sanitation through heat. the killing of pathogens. Now let's delve into the magic of boiling, the secret weapon in medieval brewing that transformed dangerous water into a safe and nourishing drink. Imagine, if you will, a large, bubbling cauldron, the gentle roar of fire beneath it, and the rich, earthy aroma of malting grain filling the air. This, my friends, was the heart of the brewing process and the key to medieval survival. The first crucial step in brewing ale or beer was sanitation through heat. To make beer, grain, usually barley, is steeped in hot water, then boiled. This sustained boiling, often for an hour or more, was the unsung hero of medieval life. Unbeknownst to them, this process effectively performed what we now call pasteurization or sterilization. The intense heat from the boiling killed most of the harmful bacteria, viruses, and parasites present in the contaminated water. It purified the liquid, making it infinitely safer to drink than raw water from a well or river. Can you imagine the relief those folks must have felt every time they sipped their ale instead of plain old water, and they didn't get sick? It must have felt like a little miracle. It's wild to think about how such a simple act, just boiling water, could change everything for them. This repetitive, everyday task turned a risky necessity into a dependable source of hydration. It's almost like they stumbled upon a life hack, right? I mean, who knew that heating water could save lives? It's amazing how something so ordinary could have such a huge impact on survival. The process didn't just stop at boiling. Oh no, it went on to fermentation, which is absolutely crucial for safety and really amps up the drink's health benefits. So picture this. You've got this warm, slightly sweet liquid after it's boiled and cooled down. Now it's time to transfer it to a wooden barrel or a vat. Here's where the magic happens. Yeast, often wild yeast, floating around in the air, or even some from previous brews, gets introduced into the mix. This is where the fun begins. As the yeast works its magic, it starts to munch on the sugars, creating bubbles and transforming that sweet liquid into something bubbly and delicious. It's like a little science experiment right in your kitchen. The flavors deepen and evolve, making every sip a unique experience. Isn't that just fascinating? The fermentation process is pretty fascinating, right? It basically gobbles up the sugars in the liquid, turning them into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Now, medieval beers were nothing like what we sip today. They were usually super low in alcohol content, but even a tiny bit of alcohol worked wonders as a preservative, keeping those pesky bacteria at bay that might have survived the boiling. Plus, the acidic vibe from fermentation made the drink even less friendly for germs. When you see that gentle bubbling and frothing in the brew, it's like a little dance of chemistry happening right before your eyes, a clear sign that it's safe and good to drink. It's amazing how something so simple can have such a big impact on safety and flavor. What do you think about that? Isn't it fascinating how something as simple as brewing has roots in medieval ingenuity? Back then, people were faced with the challenge of unsafe drinking water, and they stumbled upon this brilliant process that not only cleaned it, but made it safe to drink. Imagine that transformation, turning a risky necessity into a cozy, reliable part of their daily lives. It's like they created their own little ritual, where each cup of brewed goodness became a symbol of safety and comfort. You know, it's incredible how such a basic act can have such a profound impact on our lives, right? It's not just about quenching thirst. It's about the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're drinking something safe and enjoyable. Imagine this lively scene in a medieval village. The local brewer, a true artisan, is hard at work, carefully crafting each batch of ale with love and precision. The air is rich with the sweet scent of fermenting grain, a smell that feels like home. Kids are playing nearby, totally unaware that this simple act of brewing is what keeps their bellies full and their spirits high. Families gather around the table, sharing hearty meals and raising their cups filled with the golden fruits of this labor. It's such a beautiful picture of community and survival, all intertwined, don't you think? You know, the importance of brewing back in the day really can't be overstated. Imagine a world without modern sanitation, yikes, right? Water sources were often super contaminated, and drinking plain water could be downright dangerous. So brewing wasn't just about crafting a tasty drink. It was a matter of survival. Every sip of ale was like a life-saving hydration boost, packed with goodness and free from those nasty pathogens lurking in untreated water. It's wild to think that people relied on this for their health and well-being, turning something as simple as brewing into a crucial lifeline. Isn't it just fascinating to think about how knowledge like this has been passed down through generations? I mean, brewers back in the day might not have fully grasped the science behind their craft, but they definitely knew that sticking to certain steps led to a drink that was not only safe but also nourishing. It's like they had this instinctive folk wisdom. For example, they understood that fermentation had to happen just right, or that the temperature needed to be spot on to get the flavors just right. Even if they couldn't explain the why behind it all, they had this amazing knack for what worked. It's like they were following a recipe handed down through the ages, built on trial and error, and a whole lot of passion. How cool is that? As we lie here in the comfort of our modern beds, with clean water readily available at the turn of a tap, it's hard to fully grasp the significance of this process to our ancestors, but try to imagine for a moment living in a world where every drink of water could potentially be your last, where the simple act of quenching your thirst carried with it the risk of severe illness or death. In that context, the ability to create a safe, drinkable alternative wasn't just convenient, it was revolutionary. The fascinating world of boiling and fermentation goes way beyond just beer, you know? These age-old processes also bring us delicious drinks like mead and wine. Mead, for instance, is made from honey and has this sweet, floral flavor that's just divine. And then there's wine, which varies from crisp whites to rich reds, each with its own vibe and cultural backstory. What's cool is that all these drinks were actually safer to sip on than untreated water back in the day. So while you're enjoying a glass, you're also tapping into a rich history of creativity and safety. It's worth noting that while this process made drinks safer, it wasn't perfect by modern standards. The lack of understanding about microorganisms meant that contamination could still occur, and the overall hygiene standards of the time were far from what we'd consider acceptable today. But compared to the alternatives, it was a significant improvement. As the gentle bubbles of the fermenting brew fade in our imagination, let's dive into another fascinating reason why beer has been such a staple throughout history. You know, back in the day when food was often scarce and nutrition wasn't exactly top-notch, beer played a surprisingly crucial role. It wasn't just a drink to enjoy, it was a source of nourishment. Seriously, it provided hydration and packed in those valuable calories and nutrients that people desperately needed. Imagine folks sipping on a pint after a long day of hard work. It wasn't just about relaxation. It was about getting some energy back too. Beer was often safer to drink than water, which was sometimes contaminated. So it was like a lifeline, offering not just refreshment, but a way to stay fueled and healthy. How cool is that? It's amazing how something we often think of as a fun beverage actually had such an important role in people's daily lives. The grains used in brewing, particularly barley, were rich in carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. The fermentation process made these nutrients more readily available to the body, earning beer the nickname liquid bread. It was often safer and more nutritious than the actual bread people were eating. For laborers and farmers engaged in physically demanding work, beer provided a much-needed source of energy and hydration. It was common for workers to consume several pints throughout the day, not for intoxication, but for sustenance. This practice continued well into the Industrial Revolution, with many factories providing beer rations to their workers. Kids back in the day often sipped on what was known as small beer. It was this low-alcohol drink that kept them hydrated and gave them some nutrients without the buzz. Can you imagine? For many families, it was actually the safest option around. Water could be sketchy, so small beer was like a go-to for keeping kids healthy and happy. It might sound wild to us now, but back then, it was just part of life. The nutritional value of beer extended beyond just calories. It also provided essential B vitamins produced by the yeast during fermentation, in a diet often lacking in variety and prone to deficiencies. These additional nutrients could make a significant difference in overall health and well-being. The grains used in brewing were pretty cool because they often changed with the seasons and what was available locally. This variety meant that beer could pack in different nutrients throughout the year, which really helped shake things up in what could be a pretty dull diet. Imagine having the same meals day in and day out. Yikes, right? But here's the thing. While beer was nutritious, it wasn't a one-stop shop for all your food needs. Relying too much on it could lead to malnutrition. Still, when paired with a balanced medieval diet, it played a key role in delivering those essential calories and nutrients that people needed to keep going strong. As we drift deeper into our exploration of medieval life, let the gentle bubbling of the fermenting brew lull you into a sense of comfort and safety. Much like it did for our ancestors centuries ago, the magic of boiling and fermentation, a simple yet profound process that turned a potential poison into a life-giving elixir. It's a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, we find ways to survive and thrive. Grain as sustenance, a source of energy. Now let's delve into the fascinating world of medieval nutrition and the role of beer as liquid bread. Imagine a time when every sip of your drink wasn't just refreshment, but a vital source of sustenance. The year is 1325, and you're a humble peasant waking up to another day of back-breaking labor. Your stomach growls with hunger, but there's no time for a hearty breakfast. Instead, you reach for a wooden cup filled with a murky liquid. This, my friends, is your breakfast, lunch, and dinner all rolled into one. It's beer, but not as we know it today. This medieval brew was thick, cloudy, and packed with nutrients. It was quite literally liquid bread, providing essential calories and nourishment to get you through the grueling day. Ahead, you see, in these times food was often scarce and monotonous. Meat was a luxury reserved for the wealthy, and fresh produce was only available during certain seasons. But grain was abundant. Barley, oats, and rye formed the backbone of the medieval diet, and beer was brewed directly from these grains. Think about the simple yet magical ingredients that come together to create this life-sustaining beverage. You've got malted barley, water, yeast, and maybe a sprinkle of hops or some other herbs to give it that special kick. The brewing process? It's like a little science experiment, transforming those complex carbs in the grains into sugars that are way easier for your body to absorb. With every sip, you're not just quenching your thirst. You're also getting a gentle boost of energy, along with a nice dose of B vitamins from the yeast and essential minerals. It's pretty amazing, right? This humble drink has been a source of nourishment for ages, and it's fascinating to think about how something so simple can pack such a punch. Imagine being that medieval farmer or craftsman, right? Your day kicks off before the sun even thinks about rising, and it doesn't wrap up until the last bit of daylight disappears. It's a grind. You're constantly lifting, hauling, digging, or hammering away, and let me tell you, your muscles are definitely feeling it. They ache, and your body is just screaming for fuel to keep going. This is where beer steps in as your trusty sidekick. It's not just a drink. It's a solid source of calories that helps you power through those long, grueling hours. Picture yourself taking a break, sipping on that cold brew, and feeling a little bit of that weight lift off your shoulders. It's like a little reward for all that hard work, keeping your strength up and your spirits high. How cool is that? It wasn't uncommon for a person in these times to consume several liters of beer throughout the day, but don't imagine rowdy tavern scenes or drunken revelry. This was a practical necessity, a fundamental part of the daily diet. Beer helped stave off hunger, prevented dehydration, and kept energy levels up for the demanding tasks ahead. The gentle warmth it brought to the stomach and the quiet satisfaction of being properly fueled was a constant comfort in a harsh and unforgiving world. Let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer brilliance behind this liquid bread. Seriously, it was such a clever fix for the challenges of food scarcity and preservation back in the day. Without refrigeration or modern farming techniques, grains could be stored for ages and transformed into this nutritious drink that didn't spoil as quickly as solid food. Can you imagine? It was portable, super easy to drink, and provided a solid source of calories when other food options were pretty limited. But beer was more than just a survival tool. It was a social glue that brought people together. Picture this: workers taking a breather, sharing a drink and laughing about the day's struggles, or families cozying up around the fire, sipping their homemade brew after a long day. Those moments of connection and joy were like little rays of sunshine in an otherwise tough life. It was those small pleasures that made the hardships of medieval life just a bit more bearable, right? So next time you raise a glass, think about how this simple drink once played such a huge role in fostering community and lifting spirits. As we continue our journey through the Middle Ages, we can almost taste the earthy flavors of this ancient beer, feel the weight of the wooden cup in our hands, and sense the quiet gratitude of those who relied on it for their very survival. It's a humbling reminder of how far we've come and how different our relationship with food and drink is today. But let's not romanticize the past too much. While beer provided essential nutrition, It was also born of necessity in a world where clean water was often scarce or contaminated. The brewing process helped to purify the water, making it safer to drink than the alternatives. This dual purpose as both food and safe hydration made beer an indispensable part of medieval life. As the sun dips below the horizon and the church bells ring out, marking the end of another long day, our tired peasant reaches for that comforting cup of liquid bread one last time. You can almost feel the weight of the day on their shoulders, muscles sore and fatigue creeping in. But that familiar taste? It's like a warm hug offering comfort and a promise of renewed strength to tackle tomorrow's challenges. Isn't it amazing to think about how this humble drink shaped medieval society? From the fields where farmers toiled to grow barley and oats, to the bustling brew houses where the magic of fermentation happened, beer was woven into every aspect of life. It wasn't just a drink, it influenced everything. The need for clean water and good brewing spots often dictated where people settled, shaping towns and villages. Imagine a community gathering around a local brew, sharing stories and laughter. Beer was the glue that held them together, creating bonds and fostering a sense of belonging. How cool is that? As we drift deeper into our exploration of medieval life, can you just imagine the soft bubbling of fermenting beer, the creaking of wooden barrels, and the low murmur of voices sharing stories over their evening drinks? It's like a cozy soundscape that would have felt so familiar to our ancestors, a constant backdrop to their daily lives. Beer wasn't just a drink. It was an essential source of nutrition and calories, especially in those tough times of scarcity and uncertainty. Think about it. When food was often limited, this reliable brew provided not only sustenance, but also a little slice of comfort and normalcy. Picture farmers gathering after a long day, raising their mugs, and finding solace in that shared experience. It's a beautiful testament to human ingenuity, showing how people found nourishment and warmth in the simplest of ingredients, transforming what could have been a harsh existence into something a bit more bearable. Isn't that just amazing? As we wrap up this chapter of medieval life, it's incredible to realize just how much this humble beverage meant to people back then. It wasn't just a drink. It was a lifeline, a source of energy, community, and even a glimmer of hope amidst the daily grind. Think about it. Every time they raised their mugs, they weren't just toasting to the day. They were celebrating survival, camaraderie, and the simple joys of life. So the next time you crack open a modern beer, take a moment to appreciate its ancient roots and the essential role it played in helping our ancestors get through tough times. Now, as we shift gears and dive into our next topic, let the gentle hum of history wash over you. Picture this, the soft glow of candlelight dancing in a cozy medieval tavern, the warmth radiating from a communal hearth, and the soothing sounds of laughter and chatter filling the air. Imagine that quiet contentment of a hard day's work finally paying off with a satisfying drink in hand. Let these vivid images guide you as we continue our journey through the Middle Ages, where every sip and every bite tells a story of resilience, creativity, and the unbreakable human spirit. How beautiful is that? Small beer, the everyday brew. Now, let's turn our attention to a fascinating aspect of medieval beer that made it truly unique. As a daily beverage, it's typically low alcohol content, which made it perfect for all-day hydration. Imagine a drink you could consume continuously from morning to night without becoming intoxicated. This common, everyday brew was known as small beer, Unlike modern beers designed for potency, medieval small beer usually had a very low alcohol by volume, often between 0.5% and 2.5%. This was similar to, or even lower than, some modern non-alcoholic beers or kombuchas. Think about waking up and having a tankard of small beer for breakfast, accompanying every meal and being consumed during breaks from labor. It was consumed by everyone, men, women, and even children. It quenched thirst, effectively provided some calories, and was safe to drink. Without causing widespread drunkenness, it was simply part of the daily rhythm, a constant comforting presence in the lives of medieval people. And this low alcohol content meant that beer was a truly universal beverage, consumed by children and adults alike. Imagine a medieval family sitting down for a meal. The parents, the older children, even the toddlers might all be drinking small beer, and this wasn't about introducing children to alcohol. It was about providing a safe, hydrating, and nutritious alternative to unsafe water. The gentle fizz, the malty taste, the feeling of a healthy, energy-giving drink. It was a drink of sustenance, not of indulgence. The gentle clinking of tankards and the shared sips across generations create such a vivid picture, right? It's like a snapshot of a society where this humble brew was woven into every life stage. From the tiniest child to the wisest grandparent, small beer was more than just a drink. It was a unifying force in medieval households, a common thread that stitched together the fabric of daily life. Just think about it, how this shared experience of sipping the same beverage might have shaped family dynamics and sparked social interactions. Drinking low-alcohol beer wasn't just a casual choice. It was a smart move driven by necessity. It allowed everyone to stay hydrated during those long, physically demanding days without the worry of getting tipsy. This everyday ritual was a comforting presence, offering safety and sustenance, and it naturally led to that lovely feeling of deep, effortless sleep at the end of a long day. It's amazing how something so simple could have such a profound impact on their lives, don't you think? But let's dive a little deeper into how small beer fit into medieval life, shall we? It was way more than just a safer option than water. This drink played a vital role in the daily nutrition of folks from all walks of life. Back then, food could be pretty scarce, and diets were often pretty limited. Small beer was like liquid bread, you know? It packed in those essential calories and nutrients, offering sustenance when other food sources might not be around. Picture this: a laborer trudging home from the fields, completely wiped out and parched. A tankard of small beer wouldn't just quench that thirst. It would give them a much-needed energy boost to power through the rest of their long day. For kids, it was crucial too, providing the calories they needed to grow strong in a time when malnutrition was a real concern. And let's not forget, the elderly small beer was a go-to for hydration and nutrition, especially when chewing solid food became a challenge. It's amazing to think about how something so simple could support so many people, right? This everyday brew was a true lifeline, making life just a bit easier for everyone. The production of small beer really shows off the cleverness and resourcefulness of medieval folks. Can you believe it was often made from the second or third rung of the mash? That means they took the same grains used for stronger ales and reused them to whip up this lighter, everyday drink. It's a smart way to stretch limited resources and make sure nothing went to waste. Super important in a time when scarcity was always lurking around the corner. But small beer wasn't just about being practical. and surviving the day. It had a huge social and cultural vibe that's tough for us to fully appreciate today. Picture this. Taverns and ale houses weren't just places for wild drinking. They were the heartbeat of community life. People would gather to share the latest gossip, chat about local happenings, and just kick back with friends over tankards of this mild, refreshing brew. These cozy spots blurred the lines between work and play, where deals were made, friendships blossomed, and the rhythm of medieval society thrived. It's kind of beautiful, right? Just think about how this simple drink brought people together, creating bonds and memories that would last a lifetime. Small beer was more than just a drink. It was a way of life. And let's not forget the role of small beer in medieval hospitality. Offering a guest a cup of small beer was a universal sign of welcome, a gesture that transcended social classes. It was as natural and expected as offering a glass of water would be today. This custom helped to reinforce social bonds and maintain the fabric of medieval communities, creating a shared experience that everyone could relate to regardless of their station in life. The widespread consumption of small beer also had interesting implications for medieval health and hygiene. While people at the time didn't understand the science behind it, the process of brewing even weak beer helped to kill harmful bacteria, making it safer to drink than untreated water. This inadvertent public health measure likely saved countless lives and contributed to the overall well-being of medieval populations. But you know what's really fascinating about small beer? It played a big role in how people in medieval times slept. The gentle sedative effect of even low alcohol content, combined with the hydration and nutrition it provided, likely helped folks get deeper, more restful sleep after a long day of hard work. Just picture it. After a grueling day in the fields, a few tankards of small beer would have been just the ticket to ease those tired muscles, calm the mind, and get the body ready for some quality shut-eye. Now, imagine the cozy scene of a medieval evening. Families would gather around the warm glow of the hearth, sipping their last beer of the day. You can almost hear the soft murmur of conversation, the comforting crackle of the fire, and the delightful aroma of malt filling the air. It created such a soothing vibe, right? This kind of atmosphere naturally led to that sleepy feeling, lulling everyone into a peaceful slumber. It's a world away from our modern habits of scrolling through screens and battling harsh lights before bed. Instead, it offered a lovely, gentle transition into dreamland, allowing people to drift off with ease. As we reflect on the role of small beer in medieval life, it's clear that this humble beverage was far more than just a drink. It was a cornerstone of daily existence, a solution to pressing health concerns, a source of nutrition, a social lubricant, and even an aid to restful sleep. It's a testament to the ingenuity and adaptability of our ancestors who found ways to thrive in challenging circumstances. Next time you grab a glass of water or crack open a soda, take a moment to think about medieval small beer. It might not have had the glitz or glamour of fancy drinks, but it was a vital part of everyday life back then. This humble brew was like a quiet hero, nourishing countless generations and keeping them connected in ways we can hardly fathom today. Imagine families gathering around the table, sharing stories over tankards of small beer. What a beautiful scene, right? As we settle in for sleep tonight, let the memory of small beer remind us how everyday items can shape our lives and communities. It's a gentle nudge to appreciate those simple things we often overlook. like a warm meal or a comforting drink that bring us together and sustain us. These little comforts really do matter, don't you think? Regional variations, local ingredients. Let's dive into the captivating world of medieval beer, where every sip was like a little time capsule, telling a story of its origin and reflecting the local vibe. Seriously, we're not just talking about the boring, mass-produced lagers of today. Nope. Imagine a colorful landscape of flavors that would absolutely make any modern craft beer lover green with envy. Picture this. You're in a quaint village in medieval Europe. The local tavern is alive with chatter and laughter, and the air is thick with the mouth-watering aroma of freshly brewed ale. You take a sip, and wow, your taste buds are in for a treat, awakening to a complex blend of flavors that you've never tasted before. Each region, every town, and even individual households had their own unique spin on this essential drink. From rich, hearty ales to lighter, fruity brews, medieval brewing was all about creativity and connection. So can you feel the excitement? This is the incredible world of medieval brewing, where every brew is a journey waiting to be savored. Brewing in medieval times was deeply rooted in the local environment. Brewers didn't have the luxury of importing ingredients from far-off lands. Instead, they worked with what was available to them right in their own backyards. This led to fascinating regional variations, each with its own distinct character. Imagine a hearty dark ale from a northern monastic brewery, rich and robust, perfect for warming cold bones on a chilly night, or picture a lighter, sweeter brew from a southern village, refreshing and crisp, ideal for quenching thirst under the hot Mediterranean sun. But it wasn't just the grains that made these beers unique. Think about the subtle differences imparted by local water sources. Each stream well lending its own mineral profile to the brew. And let's not forget about the yeast, those microscopic miracle workers that transformed simple ingredients into the complex beverage we know and love. In medieval times, brewers didn't have access to carefully cultivated yeast strains. Instead, they relied on wild yeasts present in the air around them. This meant that even beers brewed in neighboring villages could have distinctly different flavor profiles. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself as a medieval traveler, wandering from one charming town to the next. Each stop on your journey offers a chance to sip a local brew that's totally unique, unlike anything you've ever tasted. It's like a liquid passport, each drink stamping your taste buds with the essence of that place. The familiar comfort of your hometown ale gets swapped out for thrilling, new flavors that tell stories of distant lands and rich traditions. But hold on, the variety doesn't just end there. Medieval brewers were absolute pioneers when it came to flavor. Long before hops took the spotlight, they were mixing it up with all sorts of spices and herbs. Can you imagine a brew infused with the earthy bitterness of bog myrtle, or the delicate floral notes of yarrow dancing on your palate? Picture yourself warming up with an ale spiced with ginger and cinnamon on a chilly winter night, or enjoying the crisp, refreshing tang of a rosemary-infused beer while soaking up the sun on a hot summer day. Each sip was an adventure, full of creativity and the spirit of the times. These additions weren't just about taste, though many of these herbs and spices were believed to have medicinal properties, adding an extra layer of purpose to the humble. Gruesome like root, a mixture of herbs popular in parts of medieval Europe, were also used as preservatives, helping to keep the beer fresh for longer in a time before refrigeration. this blend of practicality and flavor created a drinking experience that was both necessary and enjoyable. Can you imagine the scene? A group of villagers gathered around a communal fire, each nursing a tankard of locally brewed ale, the subtle fragrances rising from their cups, mingling with the smoke from the fire as they share stories and laughter, the complex notes dancing on their tongues, adding depth to their simple meal and warmth to their hearts. It's a far cry from the standardized, mass-produced beers we often encounter today. This diversity in medieval brewing wasn't just about taste, it was a reflection of the rich tapestry of medieval life itself. Each brew told a story of its origin, the grains, speaking of the local soil, the water, whispering of hidden springs or rushing rivers, the herbs and spices, hinting at local flora or far-flung trade routes. Drinking ale wasn't just about quenching thirst or getting a buzz. It was about connecting with your environment and your community in a deeply personal way. And let's not forget the skill and artistry involved in creating these brews. Without modern equipment or scientific understanding, medieval brewers relied on instinct, tradition, and a deep connection to their ingredients to create their ales. It was a craft passed down through generations, each brewer adding their own touch to the recipes handed down by their forebears. This created a living, evolving tradition of brewing that was as diverse as the communities it served. Now, as we sit here in our modern world, surrounded by convenience and standardization, it's easy to romanticize the past. But let's take a moment to truly appreciate the incredible variety and creativity of medieval brewing. It wasn't just about making a safe alternative to water. It was about creating something truly special, something that brought communities together and added a touch of flavor and excitement to daily life. As the echoes of medieval brewing fade into history, we're left with a fresh appreciation for the amazing flavors that once filled the tables and taverns of Europe. But wait a second. Our journey through the world of medieval beer is just getting started. And trust me, it's about to get really interesting. Have you ever thought about who actually brewed these diverse and delicious beers? It's not just the guys you'd expect. Women played a huge role in this world. They were often the ones crafting these brews in their homes, using unique recipes passed down through generations. Imagine a cozy kitchen filled with a warm, inviting sense of herbs and spices, all while a family gathered around to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Isn't that just a beautiful picture? So let's dive deeper into this fascinating history and uncover the stories behind those medieval ales that still inspire brewers today. Did you know that brewing wasn't just a man's game back then? Women played a huge role too. They were the ones whipping up those tasty ales in their homes and selling them at local markets. So when we think about medieval beer, it's essential to recognize that it was a collaborative effort, blending skills and flavors from both genders. Isn't that wild? This rich history gives us so much to think about when we raise a glass today. You see, in medieval times, brewing wasn't just the domain of monks and professional brewers. It was also a common household activity. And more often than not, it was women who were at the helm of this domestic industry. Imagine the scene: a bustling medieval household, the hearth fire crackling merrily as a woman tends to a large cauldron of brewing ale, her skilled hands measuring out grains and herbs passed down through generations of brewsters, as they were known. Brewing wasn't just a simple chore. It was an art form that required real skill and know-how. Think about it, turning basic ingredients into a delicious and nourishing drink takes a deep understanding of the whole process. And you know what? This responsibility mostly fell on women, who were seen as the natural keepers of family health and nutrition. But here's the cool part. Their creations weren't just for their families. Many women actually sold their extra ale, which helped boost the household economy and made them vital members of their communities. Imagine the bustling markets where they'd showcase their brews, creating a sense of connection and support among neighbors. How amazing is that? It's like they were not just brewing drinks, but also weaving the fabric of their communities. Let's dive deeper into the fascinating world of medieval brewing, shall we? Picture this. Women were the unsung heroines of beer history, not just brewing for fun, but as the backbone of their families and communities. These incredible ladies were whipping up homemade brews that kept everyone hydrated and healthy. And let's be real, just a little bit merry. Can you imagine the laughter and joy that filled their households? It's like they were the original craft brewers, using local ingredients to create unique flavors that we still celebrate today. Every sip of craft beer we enjoy now carries a piece of their legacy, showcasing the amazing blend of necessity and artistry that brewing represents. Cheers to that. Now, picture those bustling households and lively taverns where the fruits of these women's hard work were savored. Imagine the warm glow of the hearth fire, the rich aroma of brewing ale wafting through the air, and the quiet satisfaction that came from a job well done. It's such a comforting image, right? It really highlights the deep connections between food, drink, and community that have shaped our lives for centuries. These women were not just brewing for their families. They were crafting a sense of togetherness, creating a space for laughter and stories to flow as freely as the ale. As we drift off to sleep tonight, let's carry with us the warm flavors and delightful aromas of medieval brewing. It's such a beautiful reminder of the rich tapestry of human experiences that shape even our most ordinary moments. Imagine those cozy taverns filled with laughter, where every mug of ale has a story to tell. Picture the hearty feasts with roasted meats and fresh bread, where friends gather around a table, sharing tales and creating memories. Sweet dreams, and may your slumbers be filled with visions of fragrant ales and those merry medieval feasts, where every sip brings a smile and every gathering feels like home. So close your eyes and let those enchanting scenes dance in your mind. Alewives and domestic brewing, a household skill. Let's dive into a really cool part of medieval life. Home brewing. This craft was mostly in the hands of women, and it's such a fascinating scene to imagine. Picture this, the rhythmic bubbling of a big kettle over an open hearth, filling the air with the warm, comforting smell of malted grains. For so many medieval women, this was just another day at home, where they were the unsung heroes of beer production, quietly crafting something essential for their families. Throughout the Middle Ages, especially in smaller towns and villages, alewives were a familiar sight. These amazing women didn't just brew ale. They also sold it to their neighbors, creating a lively community hub. But even more common was the practice of brewing right in their own homes. Imagine a medieval woman, maybe a lady of the manor or a peasant wife, expertly tending to her large brewing kettle, knowing just what to do to create that perfect batch. It was a skill passed down through generations, blending tradition with the daily rhythm of life. How incredible is that? This wasn't just an occasional activity, but a regular rhythmic chore as essential to daily life as baking bread or preparing meals. The process was intricate and time-consuming, involving several crucial steps. First came the malting of the grain, then the mashing followed by boiling the wort, and finally fermenting the liquid. These women possessed an intimate knowledge of temperatures, ingredients, and fermentation processes, knowledge that was carefully passed down through generations. Can you hear it? The gentle clatter of pots and the soft murmur of the brewing process? Can you smell it? The comforting scent of malt wafting through every corner of the home? These were the familiar sounds and aromas that defined their daily lives, creating a cozy atmosphere and reminding everyone of the vital role they played in keeping their families and communities thriving. At the heart of this domestic production was the hearth and kettle. Picture a large iron kettle hanging over an open fire, its contents bubbling away, radiating warmth and life. This wasn't just a source of food and drink. It was a comforting presence, a gathering spot for family members, and a symbol of care and nurturing. It brought everyone together, from the kids sneaking tastes of the brew to the neighbors stopping by for a chat. Brewing wasn't a quick task. It often took a day or two of active work, followed by a week or so of fermentation. This regular cycle meant there was always a fresh, safe drink ready for the family. It was a labor of love, ensuring that everyone under their roof was healthy and happy. Just imagine the pride these women must have felt, knowing their efforts brought nourishment and joy to their loved ones. Imagine the quiet dedication of the alewife, right? She's there, overseeing the magical transformation of simple grains into a life-giving beverage. It's not just about brewing. Her silent strength is the backbone of medieval household brewing. It was practical, sure, but it was also so much more. For many women, it was a ticket to independence, a chance to contribute to their family's welfare, and even earn a little extra cash on the side. Picture her chatting with neighbors, sharing tips, and building a community around this essential craft. That's pretty empowering, don't you think? Brewing your own beer at home really takes you back to a time when everyday life was all about those essential crafts. Picture this: families gathering around, not just for a drink, but to whip up something that kept everyone hydrated in a world where clean water was a luxury. It wasn't just about making a tasty brew, it was about survival. Imagine the satisfaction of knowing you've created a reliable source of refreshment for your loved ones. This simple act was a vital part of daily life, and honestly, it's amazing to think about how much it mattered back then. Brewing beer is no simple task. It's actually a pretty intricate art. Women had to dive deep into the world of grains, figuring out the unique properties of each type. Think about it, they needed to know how to malt those grains just right to bring out the perfect flavors. Managing the fire was a whole skill in itself too. They had to keep an eye on temperatures, making sure everything stayed just where it needed to be throughout the brewing process. And timing? Oh man, that was crucial. They had to have a sharp sense of when each stage was done, or else the whole batch could go south. It's like a dance, really, where every step matters. Understanding the mysterious process of fermentation was key for these women. Way back then, before we even knew about yeast as a microorganism, they had to rely on their traditional knowledge and sharp observation skills. Imagine the care they took to ensure their brews fermented just right. It was all about finding that delicate balance, you know? They needed patience and a real connection to nature's rhythms. It's like they were in tune with the world around them, feeling the changes in temperature and time, making sure their creations turned out just right. They were true artisans of their craft. Diving into the world of medieval home brewing is like stepping into a cozy time machine, right? You can almost feel that warm hearth on your face, and the rich aroma of malted grains just wraps around you. Imagine the soft bubbling of the brew kettle, creating a soundtrack that's both soothing and exciting. It's such a sensory adventure, taking us back to a time when brewing was both an art and a craft. Think about it back then. Brewing wasn't just about making beer. It was a community event. Friends and family would gather, sharing stories and laughter while they worked together. Picture those big wooden barrels, filled to the brim with delicious concoctions, just waiting to be tasted. And let's not forget the unique flavors they created using local ingredients, honey, herbs, and even fruits. Each batch had its own character, telling a story of the place and people behind it. How cool is that? It's like tasting history with every sip. These medieval brewsters were true pioneers, experimenting with local ingredients like barley and hops, and they had a knack for creating unique flavors. Can you picture them gathering herbs from their gardens to add a little something special to their brews? It's fascinating to think about the dedication and skill they poured into each batch, crafting drinks that brought people together. So, what do you think? Isn't it amazing how much history and passion is packed into every sip of their brews? Can you just picture the joy these women felt as they took that first sip of their finished drink? It's like a moment of pure triumph, right? This wasn't just any beverage. It was the result of their hard work and dedication. This nourishing drink would keep their families going through those long, grueling days and bring a sense of comfort during celebrations and tough times alike. It's so much more than just a drink. It's a reflection of their talent, their love, and the vital role they played in medieval society. They poured their hearts into every batch, knowing it would be a source of strength for their loved ones. Just imagine the pride they must have felt, knowing they were providing for their families in such a meaningful way. Women played a huge role in medieval brewing, and it wasn't just about what happened in their kitchens. In many towns, alewives would whip up extra ale and sell it, creating this awesome local trade. Imagine the hustle and bustle as neighbors gathered to share a pint, enjoying the fruits of each other's hard work. This not only helped families make some extra cash, but also built a real sense of community. People would come together, swap stories, and bond over a good drink, right? It was like a mini social hub where everyone felt connected through the simple act of sharing a brew. How cool is that? Interestingly, the role of women in brewing began to decline towards the end of the medieval period as beer production became more commercialized and moved out of the home and into larger breweries. This shift marked a significant change in the social and economic landscape of brewing, one that would have far-reaching consequences for women's roles in the industry. Let's take a moment to really soak in the scene of our medieval journey, shall we? Picture that cozy little dwelling with the kettle bubbling away and the sweet aroma of ale wafting through the air. It's a place where industrious women, the alewives, worked their magic day in and day out. Can you imagine the skill it took to brew that essential beverage? Each pint we enjoy today is a nod to their hard work and dedication. Their legacy isn't just about beer. It's a celebration of community and tradition, reminding us of the deep roots of this ancient craft. So next time you raise a glass, think of those incredible women and the rich history they've left us. As the gentle bubbles and comforting aromas of homebrew fade from our senses, we can't help but think about another fascinating aspect of medieval beer production. Ever thought about those monks who brewed with such incredible skill and quiet devotion in the serene halls of monasteries? It's pretty amazing, right? These monks weren't just making beer. They were crafting liquid gold. Their brews were often richer and more flavorful, enjoyed by the community, and even used to fund the monastery's activities. It's no wonder beer was such a big deal back then. This dedication to brewing in the monasteries played a huge role in the popularity of beer during medieval times, making it a cherished part of daily life. So next time you sip a cold one, think about those monks and their ancient craft. Monastic brewing, quality and innovation. Now let's turn our attention to the monastic brewers, those silent craftsmen of the Middle Ages picture. If you will, the tranquil cloisters of a medieval monastery where brewing wasn't just a necessity, but an art form, a practice of devotion and innovation. These weren't just places of prayer, but self-sufficient communities where the production of beer was as fundamental as the daily rituals of monastic life. Imagine stepping into one of these stone-walled breweries. The air is thick with the rich, earthy scent of hops and malt, creating a cozy atmosphere that wraps around you like a warm blanket. You can hear the steady sounds of fermentation bubbling away in the background, a symphony of nature's magic. It's a world apart from the chaotic alehouses we've just left behind, where the noise is overwhelming and the quality can be hit or miss. Here, in these hallowed halls, brewing was elevated to a higher purpose, a true labor of love. Unlike the humble alewives we chatted about earlier, monks had access to some pretty amazing resources. They enjoyed consistent water sources, tended herb gardens bursting with fresh ingredients, and most importantly, they had time. Time to experiment, to refine their techniques, and to strive for perfection. These weren't just rushed batches made between chores. These were carefully crafted brews born from years of accumulated knowledge and skill, reflecting their dedication to the craft. Picture a monk hunched over a thick leather bound, tome meticulously recording a new recipe. His quill scratches softly against the parchment, preserving brewing wisdom for generations to come. This dedication to documentation, this constant pursuit of improvement, it's what set monastic brewing apart. It led to highly consistent and often superior beers. Beers that were not only consumed by the monks themselves, who often drank several liters a day, but were also sold to weary pilgrims or distributed to local communities. But what truly set monastic brewing apart was its silent production, a unique fusion of devotion and skill. Close your eyes and imagine the scene. Monks move quietly, methodically through the brewing process. There's no shouting, no clanging of tankards, just a gentle stir of mash, the careful transfer of liquid, the vigilant monitoring of fermenting vats. This wasn't just work for these monks. It was like a heartfelt act of devotion, a way to give back to their community and honor God. Picture them in their simple robes, rhythmically stirring, lifting, and pouring. It created this serene vibe, right? Brewing became their meditation, a beautiful form of prayer through labor. Each cup of ale or wine they crafted was a little piece of love and faith, connecting them to something bigger than themselves. They weren't just making drinks. They were nurturing their spirits and those of everyone who would enjoy their creations. Isn't that just inspiring? Can you hear that? It's the soft chants that might have floated through the air, bouncing off those old stone walls, blending with the bubbling sounds of fermenting beer. It's such a hauntingly beautiful vibe, reminding us just how sacred this everyday task really is. Every single day, these monasteries were cranking out beer like it was nobody's business, totally outpacing most secular brewers. Can you believe some of these monastic breweries were producing thousands of barrels each year? But here's the kicker. It wasn't just about pumping out tons of beer. It was all about nailing that quality and consistency. These monks were true artisans, honing their craft way before anyone even thought about quality control. They were like the original craft brewers, you know? Each batch was a labor of love, and they took pride in creating something that not only tasted amazing, but also brought people together. Imagine the ripple effect this had on medieval society. Monasteries were not just places of worship. They were vital hubs of daily life. They blended spiritual devotion with practical skills, crafting some of the finest and safest drinks of the time. When you took a sip of a monastic brew, it was more than just quenching your thirst. It was like connecting with history. You were part of a rich legacy that shaped the community, creating bonds over shared moments and cherished traditions. It's pretty fascinating to think about how something as simple as a drink could carry such weight, right? But why was this beer so important beyond just quenching thirst? Well, my friends, beer in the Middle Ages was so much more than just a drink. It was like the ultimate social glue. Imagine gathering around a long table, laughter echoing, and everyone sharing stories over a frosty mug. It was a centerpiece of feasts, bringing people together in a way that few other things could. Think about it, whether it was a grand celebration, like a wedding or just a simple meal with friends. Beer has always been there, making those moments feel extra special. It wasn't just about getting tipsy. It was about community and connection, right? Remember those backyard barbecues where everyone gathered, laughing and sharing stories over cold ones? So next time you raise a glass, think about it. You're not just enjoying a drink. You're partaking in a tradition that goes way back, connecting you to countless others who've shared the same joy. Cheers to that. Imagine a medieval feast hall, the air thick with wood smoke and the scent of roasted meat. Long wooden tables stretch the length of the room, crowded with people from all walks of life. And what's flowing freely binding this diverse group together? Beer, of course. Mugs are raised in toasts. Laughter echoes off the stone walls as the night wears on inhibitions lower and stories flow as freely as the ale. The power of beer in medieval society was something else, right? It wasn't just about getting a little tipsy, though that definitely played its part. It was all about creating this shared experience, a moment of connection that really mattered in a world that could feel pretty harsh and isolating. Imagine it. Whether you were a peasant working the fields or a noble living in a castle, when you raised a mug of beer, you were part of something bigger. People gathered in taverns, sharing stories and laughter over a pint. It was a place where social classes blurred, and everyone could just be human together. Beer was often safer to drink than water back then, so it brought folks together for not just a drink, but a sense of community. It's amazing how something as simple as beer could foster those bonds, right? And it wasn't just grand feasts where beer played this role. Think of the more humble gatherings, a group of villagers sharing a drink after a long day in the fields. Travelers swapping stories over mugs in a roadside tavern, even in monasteries. The daily allowance of beer provided a moment of respite and community for the monks. Beer really was this amazing equalizer back in the day, right? I mean, it didn't matter if you were a lowly serf or the mightiest king, everyone shared a love for this bubbly brew. Sure, the quality could swing wildly. Some might be sipping on something that tastes like heaven, while others were stuck with something that tasted like, well, not so great. But the magic of beer? It broke down those social walls. Just picture it. Strangers coming together, laughing, and sharing stories over a pint. For just one evening, those differences faded away, and it was all about enjoying the moment together. How cool is that? But let's not romanticize this too much, the Middle Ages weren't all jolly feasts and merry gatherings beer. Consumption could and often did lead to problems. Drunkenness and its associated issues were as much a concern then as they are now. Many towns had strict regulations about when taverns could operate and how much beer could be sold. Yet despite these issues, the social importance of beer cannot be overstated. It was a crucial part of celebrations, marking everything from births to deaths, weddings to harvests. It provided calories and nutrients to a population often on the brink of malnutrition, and perhaps most importantly, it offered a moment of escape, a chance to set aside the hardships of medieval life if only for a little while. Isn't it wild how, in our modern world, we've got fridges packed with all kinds of mass-produced beers? Sometimes it's easy to overlook just how significant this humble drink really was. Back in the day, beer wasn't just something to sip on while hanging out with friends. It was a total game changer. It served as a cornerstone of society, crafted with care and devotion, and brought people together in ways we can't even imagine today. Picture this. In ancient cultures, beer was often brewed for festivals and gatherings, acting as a social glue that sparked joy and connection among communities. It was like the original party starter. So the next time you crack open a cold one, take a moment to appreciate the rich history and the bonds it helped forge. Cheers to that. The legacy of those monastic brewers, those silent craftsmen toiling in stone-walled breweries, it lives on, not just in the Trappist beers still produced by monks today, but in every carefully crafted microbrew, every experimental homebrew. Every time we raise a glass with friends, we're participating in a tradition that stretches back centuries, a tradition that reminds us of the power of shared experiences and the simple pleasures that can bind us together. Next time you crack open a cold one, take a moment to really soak it in. Think about those medieval monks, They were all about that quiet dedication and their relentless pursuit of brewing perfection. It's pretty wild to consider how beer has been a part of countless gatherings throughout history, right? From raucous celebrations to intimate get-togethers, it's always flowed freely, bringing folks together. And let's not forget the long, rich history behind that drink in your hand think ancient civilizations and their rituals. So maybe, just maybe, when you take that sip, you'll feel a little more connected to all those who came before us, raising their mugs in celebration. Cheers to that. Communal drinking, bonding, and celebration. The gentle hum of medieval taverns fades, and we find ourselves transported to a world where beer was more than just a drink. It was the very essence of social life. Picture yourself in a bustling village square as the sun begins to set. The air is filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread and roasted meats mingling with the earthy scent of ale, laughter, and chatter echo through the streets as people gather for their evening respite. In these times, beer wasn't just a luxury. It was a necessity, a staple of daily life that brought people together in ways we can scarcely imagine today, from the humblest peasant to the mightiest lord. Everyone partook in this communal ritual. Imagine yourself seated at a rough-hewn wooden table in a dimly lit tavern. The flickering light of tallow candles cast dancing shadows on the walls as you raise your earthenware tankard to your lips. The beer we're talking about is thick and hearty, totally a different vibe from those crisp lagers we usually grab today, right? Seriously, this stuff is like a meal in itself. You know, back in the day, it was often safer to drink than water crazy, huh? Plus, it was loaded with calories, which was super important for powering through those long, grueling days of labor. Imagine farmers or laborers enjoying a pint after a hard day's work, feeling that warmth spread through them. It wasn't just a drink. It was a way to refuel and unwind. So next time you sip on a lager, think about how this hearty brew played a crucial role in history. When you take a sip, you can almost taste the hard work that went into making it. Think about it. The careful tending of barley fields, the slow and patient malting process, and the skilled hands of the brewers turning those simple ingredients into something magical. It's like liquid gold, right? Each pint tells a story of tradition and craftsmanship that's just waiting to be savored. So next time you grab a beer, remember the journey it took to get to your glass. It's really not just about the drink, you know? It's all about those connections we build over shared cups. Think about it, every sip comes with stories exchanged and bonds strengthened. Back in the day, before we had TVs or smartphones, these gatherings were everything. The entertainment, the news, and the social network all rolled into one. Imagine sitting there, surrounded by the soft hum of laughter and conversation. You can almost feel the weight of centuries of tradition hanging in the air. So many generations have found comfort and companionship in these rituals. Like that time when Grandma shared her secret recipe over coffee, or when friends gathered to celebrate milestones. Those moments create memories that last a lifetime, right? It's a beautiful reminder of how we're all connected through these simple yet profound experiences. The tavern keeper, a cheerful guy with a rosy face and a sharp sense of humor, weaves through the crowd, topping off drinks and sharing a friendly word or two. He's not just serving up pints. He's the soul of the place, a true confidant and peacemaker. His tavern feels like a second home where folks from all walks of life come together. You can see heated arguments turn into hearty laughter over a shared table, and deals get made over a couple of ales. It's a space where friendships blossom, breaking down those pesky social barriers that usually keep people apart. You know, it's like a warm hug for the community. As the evening wears on, the atmosphere in the tavern grows warmer and more convivial. The initial reserve melts away, replaced by a sense of camaraderie that transcends the daily struggles of medieval life. A grizzled farmer shares a tankard with a young apprentice, swapping tales of harvests past and dreams of future craftsmanship. A traveling merchant regales wide-eyed locals with stories of far-off lands and exotic wares. In these moments, the harsh realities of life in the Middle Ages fade away, replaced by a shared sense of wonder and possibility. I imagine this. It's not just in taverns where beer works its social magic. Picture yourself in a grand castle or a magnificent manor house, surrounded by the buzz of an elaborate feast. The air is thick with the mouth-watering aroma of roasted meats, fragrant spices, and of course that rich, frothy ale. Long trestle tables are practically buckling under the weight of platters piled high with all kinds of delicious food. Think juicy meats, fresh bread, and colorful fruits. In one corner, minstrels strum their lutes, filling the room with cheerful melodies, almost lost in the lively laughter and animated conversations swirling around you. It's like stepping into a scene from a storybook, where every sip of beer adds to the warmth and camaraderie of the gathering. Can you feel that buzz? It's the magic of shared moments, all fueled by the simple joy of good food and drink. In this lively scene, beer really takes center stage, doesn't it? Picture this: servants darting around, arms loaded with endless pitchers of ale that never seem to run dry. It's like a never-ending party. Lords, ladies, knights, and squires all join in this shared ritual of toasting and drinking. And honestly, it's a sight to behold. As the ale flows freely, you can just feel the atmosphere lighten up, right? Those rigid medieval hierarchies, they start to fade a bit. In these moments, everyone's just a part of the celebration, letting loose and enjoying each other's company. It's such a beautiful reminder of how shared experiences can bring people together, even in a time when social classes were so strict. As the feast rolls on, the vibe gets wilder and more energetic. Toasts are raised, celebrating everything from the health of the host to bountiful harvests and glorious victories in battle. You can just picture the scene. Everyone's clinking their mugs, laughing, and sharing stories. Some of those tales are so exaggerated they could almost be myths, while others hit home with shared memories of struggles and triumphs. Laughter bounces off the stone walls, creating a warm, joyful sound that stands in stark contrast to the tough realities of medieval life. It's like a little slice of happiness, a reminder that even in hard times, community and camaraderie can bring light and joy. But it's not just in grand feasts that beer brings people together. In the quiet evenings after a long day's work, neighbors gather in humble cottages, sharing a simple meal and a cup of home-brewed ale. The fire crackles in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the gathered faces. As they sip their drinks, they discuss the day's events, share concerns about the coming harvest, or simply enjoy each other's company. In these intimate gatherings, the true power of beer as a social lubricant is most evident. In these moments, news travels like wildfire, right? Picture this: a farmer casually chatting about a weird illness that's been hitting his livestock. Suddenly, everyone's ears perk up, and they start keeping a closer eye on their own animals. Then there's that traveler who rolls into town, sharing tales from far-off places, maybe a festival in a distant city, or a rumor about a new trade route. These conversations spark lively discussions that stretch late into the night, fueled by shared drinks and laughter. Back in the day, before newspapers and smartphones took over our lives, these informal networks were absolutely crucial. They were the lifeline that kept communities connected and informed, you know? Imagine neighbors sharing news over a cup of coffee, or kids passing notes in school, everyone looking out for each other. It was like social media, but way more personal and engaging. People would gather at the local diner or park, sharing stories and updates, building real relationships. You could hear the latest happenings straight from the source, making it feel so much more authentic. It's wild to think how those connections shaped communities, right? They really knew how to keep the spirit alive. As the night wears on and the ale continues to flow, the atmosphere in these gatherings, whether grand or humble, grows increasingly mellow. The initial excitement gives way to a comfortable quietude, a shared sense of contentment that settles over the assembled company. In these moments, you can almost feel the weight of the day's worries lifting, replaced by a sense of belonging and community. It's important to remember that in these times beer wasn't just a social lubricant, it was also a source of vital nutrition. In a world where clean water was often scarce and dangerous beer provided a safe alternative, the alcohol content helped to kill harmful bacteria, while the brewing process itself often involved boiling, which further purified the liquid. The result was a drink that was not only enjoyable, but also essential for survival. This dual role as both necessity and luxury gave beer a unique place in medieval society. It was simultaneously mundane and special, an everyday staple that could transform ordinary moments into occasions for celebration and connection. In a world that was often harsh and unforgiving, these shared moments of conviviality provided a much-needed respite, a chance to forget for a while the hardships of daily life. As we sit here in the gentle glow of the tavern's fire, surrounded by the low hum of conversation, we can almost feel the weight of history pressing in around us. Countless generations have sat in places just like this, sharing drinks and stories, forging bonds that would see them through good times and bad. It's a tradition that stretches back into the mists of time and forward into our own era, a testament to the enduring power of shared experience and simple pleasures. But as comforting as these gatherings might be, we must remember that they took place against a backdrop of significant challenges. The medieval world was one of stark contrasts, where moments of joy and celebration were often overshadowed by the ever-present specter of disease, famine, and conflict. The very fact that people sought solace and connection in these shared rituals speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, the need to find light even in the darkest of times. As the last flickers of the fire start to dim and the tavern begins to empty out, there's this deep, almost magical feeling that washes over us. It's like we're connected to all those folks who came before us, you know? I mean, think about it, people from different times with their own stories and struggles, all gathered here, just like us, sharing a drink and a laugh. It's that simple act that ties us together, right? You can almost hear the echoes of their conversations, the clinking of glasses, and the warmth of camaraderie. It's a reminder that no matter how different our lives are, we all seek connection and belonging. That's what makes moments like these so special. They transcend time and remind us of our shared humanity. So as we sip our drinks and share stories, let's celebrate that bond. Cheers to the past, present, and all the memories we're creating right now. Think about it, the soft hum of conversations, the cheerful clinking of tankards, and the warmth of laughter that bounces off the walls. These sounds have been echoing through the ages, reminding us of the incredible power of community. It's those little moments like toasting with friends or swapping stories over a pint that truly bring us together. It's all about those shared experiences that create bonds. And honestly, that's what life's all about, right? But as we prepare to leave this cozy tavern and step back into the harsh realities of medieval life, we're reminded that there was another powerful reason for the preference for beer over water. A hard-learned lesson about the dangers lurking in seemingly innocent streams and wells. Join me as we explore this distrust of water, a caution born of bitter experience, and the role it played in shaping the drinking habits of an entire era. The gentle hum of the tavern fades away, replaced by the soft gurgle of a stream. But is that sound a promise of refreshment or a whisper of hidden dangers? Let's find out. Generational knowledge, avoiding illness. Now let's delve into a darker aspect of medieval life, one that shaped their daily habits and survival instincts, the deep-rooted distrust of water. Imagine for a moment, you're living in a small village in the 14th century. You've grown up hearing stories of entire families falling, after drinking from the wrong well or river. You've seen firsthand the devastating effects of what we now know as waterborne diseases. But back then it was a mysterious and terrifying force that seemed to strike without warning. This wasn't just paranoia or superstition, my friends. It was hard-earned wisdom passed down through generations of suffering and loss. Medieval people may not have understood the concept of germs or bacteria, but they were keen observers. They noticed patterns. They saw that after heavy rains, when the rivers swelled and became murky, more people in the village would fall sick. They recognized that certain water sources were consistently linked to outbreaks of illness. This knowledge wasn't written in books or taught in schools. It was etched into the collective memory of communities through countless instances of quiet suffering. Picture this: a mother with a heart full of love gently pulls her child away from a sparkling stream on a scorching summer day. It's not that she doesn't want them to enjoy a refreshing drink. It's because she knows deep down that this seemingly innocent water could lead to days of terrible illness, or, in the worst cases, even death. That was the harsh reality of medieval life. Every sip of water was like rolling the dice, risking health for a moment of relief. It's wild to think about, right? Imagine living in a world where you had to weigh your thirst against the risk of getting sick. No wonder people were so cautious. Now you might be wondering, how did they survive? If they couldn't trust water, well, that's where our old friend ale comes into play. Remember how we talked about the social importance of ale in medieval society? Well, it turns out it wasn't just about socializing. It was quite literally a matter of life and death. You see, the process of brewing ale involved boiling water, which, although they didn't know, it killed many of the harmful microorganisms that made raw water so dangerous. Imagine this: you're a medieval farmer just trudging in from a grueling day in the fields. You're hot, you're thirsty, and you've got a choice to make. Do you go for a refreshing cup of water from that nearby stream, or do you grab a mug of weak ale? I mean, come on, it's the ale all the way. Now, it's not like you're trying to get tipsy after a long day's work. Nope. Generations of farmers like you have learned that ale is actually the safer bet. Water from streams can be pretty sketchy, right? It could be contaminated or filled with all sorts of nasties. But that ale? It's been brewed, which means it's safer to drink. It's not just about taste or preference. It's like a survival instinct that's been passed down through generations. When you reach for that mug of ale, it's not just about quenching your thirst. It's about embracing a part of your heritage, connecting with those who came before you. It's fascinating how something as simple as enjoying a drink can remind us of our roots and keep us grounded, right? Makes you really appreciate the little things in life, doesn't it? Just think about it, sharing a cold one with friends or family, laughing and telling stories. That's what life's all about. This learned caution wasn't limited to adults. Either children from a very young age were taught to avoid raw water and stick to the safer brewed. Alternative small beer, a weak low-alcohol brew, was often given to children not to get them drunk, but to keep them hydrated without risking their health. It's a concept that might seem strange to us now with our access to clean tap water, but for medieval people, it was just common sense. Imagine waking up every day with this nagging feeling that the water you drink could actually harm you. It's a wild thought, right? Back in medieval times, folks weren't just being picky about their drinks. They were genuinely trying to stay alive. With so many water sources contaminated, it makes total sense that they turned to brewed beverages like beer and tea. These drinks not only tasted better, but also felt safer. So it wasn't just about sipping something tasty. It was about making a smart choice for survival. Crazy how something as simple as a drink can shape daily life, huh? This preference for ale and other brewed drinks wasn't just a personal choice. It became deeply embedded in the culture and society of medieval Europe. Taverns weren't just places to drink and socialize, they were vital community hubs where people could safely quench their thirst. The act of brewing wasn't just a trade, it was a public service, providing a safe alternative to potentially deadly water. But here's the scoop. This distrust of water wasn't the same everywhere. In some spots, clean water sources were actually available, and folks knew they were safe to drink. For example, in certain towns near fresh springs or rivers, people enjoyed clear, cool water without a second thought. But honestly, those places were more like rare gems. For most of medieval Europe, though, water was treated with serious suspicion, and you can totally see why. With all the pollution and disease floating around, it made sense to be cautious. So while some were sipping happily, the majority were wary, opting for alternatives like ale or wine instead. It's wild to think about, right? Now you might be thinking, surely they must have realized that some water sources were safer than others, and you'd be, right? Medieval people weren't stupid. They observed, they learned, they adapted, they knew that water from fast-flowing streams was generally safer than stagnant ponds. They recognized that some wells produced better water than others, but even with this knowledge, the risk was often seen as too great. Why take a chance with water when you had a readily available, safer alternative in ale? This cautious approach to water extended beyond just drinking to bathing, was often viewed with suspicion, not just because of religious or moral reasons, but because of genuine health concerns. Immersing oneself in water, especially public baths, was seen as potentially dangerous, opening up the body to illness. It's no wonder that the stereotype of the unwashed medieval peasant persists to this day, although it's worth noting that people did clean themselves, just not in the way we might expect. The distrust of water had a huge ripple effect, shaping not just personal habits, but entire industries and economies. Take the brewing industry, for example. It was massive. It employed a significant chunk of the population, especially women, who often took the lead as primary brewers in their households and small communities. Isn't that interesting? The whole process of transporting and storing ale became a vital part of medieval life. Ale houses and taverns weren't just places to grab a drink. They were essential waypoints for travelers, where folks could rest, share stories, and connect. Imagine stopping by a cozy tavern after a long journey, enjoying a pint of locally brewed ale while chatting with friends. It really highlights how integral these establishments were to social life back then. But perhaps the most profound impact of this distrust of water was on the medieval mindset. Itself, it reinforced a worldview where danger lurked in the most unexpected places, where even something as simple and essential as water couldn't be trusted. It contributed to a sense of constant vigilance, a need to rely on the wisdom of elders and the safety of tradition rather than risking the unknown. Imagine this. We're living in a world where clean water flows right from our taps, and we hardly think twice about it, right? But let's take a moment to really grasp what it would be like to live your whole life without that luxury. Picture having to worry every time you reach for a glass of water, wondering if it's safe to drink. That's a heavy thought, and it really puts things into perspective when we look back at the medieval times. Back then, people faced constant fear of contaminated water, which could lead to all sorts of illnesses. Can you even imagine the anxiety? It's a reminder of just how far we've come, but also how important it is to appreciate what we have today. But hey, let's flip the script and not end on a downer. This whole distrust of water and the shift towards brewed beverages actually sparked some pretty cool stuff. It pushed people to get creative with brewing techniques, right? Think about it, everything from craft beers to artisanal coffees has roots in this shift. Plus, it created this amazing culture around communal drinking and socializing. You know, those cozy pub nights or coffee shop hangouts where friends gather to chat and unwind. That's what it's all about. In many ways, this laid the groundwork for the diverse and vibrant drinking cultures we see all over the globe today, from bustling beer gardens in Germany to trendy tea houses in Japan. Isn't that fascinating? Next time you casually fill up a glass from the tap or grab a bottle of water from the fridge, take a moment to appreciate just how far we've come, you know? Seriously, it's wild to think about our medieval ancestors who had to deal with all sorts of dangers just to quench their thirst. Imagine having to worry about contaminated water or hidden germs lurking in every sip. Their caution and cleverness in finding safer alternatives, like boiling water or using herbal infusions, really shaped the world we enjoy today. So why not raise a toast to them? Cheers to progress and the simple joys of hydration. Storing grains and brew, longer shelf life. Now let's delve into the fascinating world of medieval brewing and its role in preservation. My friends, picture yourself in a time without refrigeration, where keeping food and drink fresh was a constant battle against the forces of nature and time. The gentle flicker of candlelight dances on rough-hewn walls as we explore how our ancestors tackled this challenge with ingenuity and practicality. Brewing wasn't just about creating a tasty beverage. It was a clever method of preservation, extending the shelf life of both grains and liquids. In those days when clean water was scarce and milk spoiled quickly, beer became a lifeline, a reliable source of hydration that could last for weeks or even months. The process of brewing itself was like a magical ritual, transforming perishable ingredients into a stable, potable drink. Imagine, if you will, the satisfying crunch of grains underfoot as you walk through a medieval granary. Sacks upon sacks of barley and other grains line the walls, patiently waiting their turn to be transformed into liquid gold. These grains could be stored for long periods without spoiling, ensuring a continuous supply of raw material for brewing. It was like having a pantry that could feed and hydrate an entire village for months on end. Now picture the brewing process itself, the air thick with the earthy aroma of malted grains as they're steeped in hot water. the rhythmic bubbling of the wort as it boils, killing off harmful microorganisms that could spoil the brew. The addition of hops not just for flavor, but as a natural preservative extending the life of the beer even further. It was a dance of science and tradition passed down through generations, each step carefully honed to create a drink that would last. As the brew fermented in those cozy wooden barrels hidden away in cool, dark cellars, it was like watching a magical transformation unfold. The yeast was hard at work, turning sugars into alcohol, and not just giving people a nice buzz, but also adding an extra layer of preservation to the drink. This ale was nothing like the crystal clear beers we sip today. It was often thick and cloudy, almost like a hearty meal in a mug. But here's the kicker. It was safe to drink when water sources were questionable, which was a real lifesaver back in the day. Plus, it lasted way longer than any fresh water could. Imagine raising a frothy mug of ale, knowing it wouldn't spoil on you. How cool is that? This stability made beer a truly reliable product, ensuring hydration in times of uncertainty. Imagine being a medieval traveler setting out on a long journey across unknown lands. Carrying barrels of ale was a far safer bet than relying on unfamiliar water sources along the way, the gentle sloshing of liquid in your barrel, a comforting reminder that you had a safe drink at hand no matter where your travels took you. Imagine yourself as a citizen during a siege, huddled behind the city walls, heart racing as enemies prowl outside. It's terrifying, right? But down in the cellars there are barrels of ale, and they're not just for a good time, they're a lifeline. When fresh water supplies run dry, that ale becomes your go-to for hydration. Having that steady supply of safe, nourishing liquid is like a warm hug in a world that feels so unpredictable. You can picture families gathering around, sharing stories, and finding comfort in each other's company, all while sipping on that precious brew. It's not just about survival. It's about holding on to a sense of normalcy when everything else feels chaotic. How amazing is that? This everyday activity of brewing highlights a medieval ingenuity born of practical necessity. It wasn't just about creating an enjoyable drink. It was a brilliant solution to the challenges of food and drink preservation, ensuring a constant, reliable source of safe hydration for entire communities. The gentle gurgle of liquid in a barrel was more than just a pleasant sound. It was a sign of security, a promise that even in hard times there would be something safe to drink. As we sit here in the soft glow of candlelight, let's take a moment to appreciate the cleverness of our ancestors. Their brewing techniques weren't just about creating a tasty beverage, they were about survival, about finding ways to thrive in a world that was often harsh and unforgiving. The next time you enjoy a cold beer, remember that you're partaking in a tradition that stretches back centuries, a tradition that once meant the difference between life and death. Now imagine yourself back in that medieval village. The sun is setting and the day's work is done. You make your way to the local tavern, a place of warmth and community. The air is thick with the smell of wood smoke and the earthy aroma of ale. As you settle onto a rough wooden bench, a tankard is placed. Before you're filled with the fruits of the brewer's labor, it's more than just a drink. It's a testament to human ingenuity, a liquid time capsule, preserving not just grains, but the very essence of medieval life. Raising that tankard to your lips is like taking a sip of history itself. You can almost feel the weight of countless generations who relied on this humble brew for everything from sustenance to safety. The flavor? Oh man, it's rich and complex, way different from those light, crisp beers we're used to today. But here's the thing. As that first sip rolls over your tongue, you totally get why this drink was so cherished. It's not just alcohol. It's like liquid bread, combining a meal and a drink in one satisfying gulp. Imagine how it must have felt to share a tankard with friends after a long day of work, knowing it was more than just a drink, it was nourishment, comfort, and a way to bond. It's a beautiful reminder of how something so simple can hold so much meaning. What do you think? Isn't it amazing how something so basic can connect us to the past? The tavern around you buzzes with conversation, laughter, and the occasional burst of song. These gatherings were more than just social events. They were a celebration of community, of shared survival in a challenging world. Every tankard raised was a silent toast to the brewers, whose skills kept the village safe and hydrated through good times and bad. As the night wears on and stories are shared, you begin to appreciate the true value of this humble drink. It wasn't just about quenching thirst or providing a pleasant buzz. It was a cornerstone of medieval life, a reliable constant in a world of uncertainty. From the fields where the grains were grown to the cellars where the ale was stored, every step of the brewing process was a link in a chain of survival stretching back through the centuries. The medieval brewer was way more than just a craftsman. He was like the unsung hero of public health, you know? Imagine a time when clean water was hard to come by. The brewer not only crafted delicious ales, but also helped keep the village safe by providing a reliable source of hydration. His skills, passed down through generations, were as crucial to daily life as the blacksmith forging tools or the baker whipping up bread. Without his brews, life wouldn't just have been less enjoyable. It would have been a whole lot riskier, too. People gathered around his brewery, sharing stories and laughter, creating a sense of community that was absolutely vital back then. It's pretty amazing how much impact one person can have, right? As we drift off to sleep tonight, let's carry with us this appreciation for the ingenuity of our ancestors. Their brewing techniques, born of necessity, have evolved into the diverse and vibrant beer culture we enjoy today, from the humble ale houses of medieval villages to the craft brewers of our modern cities. The spirit of innovation and preservation lives on. Next time you crack open a cold one, take a moment to raise a silent toast to those medieval brewers who laid the groundwork for the deliciousness we enjoy today. Can you imagine the skill and knowledge they had? Every barrel, every bottle, and every pint we sip is like a little shout-out to their creativity. It's amazing how a good brew can bring people together, right? Think about it, whether you're at a backyard barbecue or a cozy pub with friends, there's something special about sharing a drink. So here's to those medieval brewers. May their memory live on, and may we always appreciate the rich, flavorful history behind every sip we take. Cheers. And somehow even less merciful. Your home is a wooden hut with one room, no windows, and a charming open concept floor plan where your family livestock and domestic insects all share the same space. The smell, oh, it's a fragrant symphony, a subtle blend of unwashed bodies, animal droppings, and the lingering aroma of last night's pottage. But let's not dwell on that, because it's time to start your day, and what a day it promises to be. As our peaceful journey through time comes to a close, allow the quiet contemplation of medieval drinking habits to settle gently within you. We've explored how their choice of beer over water was a multifaceted solution, driven by the peril of unsafe water. enabled by the purifying magic of brewing, offering vital nutrition consumed safely due to low alcohol content, celebrated for its taste and variety of common, domestic skill perfected by monks, a vibrant social lubricant, a learned caution, and a method of preservation. Their lives were filled with duties that seem utterly bizarre to us, yet each was a vital thread in the rich, strange tapestry of medieval society. They highlight a world driven by different needs, different knowledge, and a remarkable human adaptability. My friend, perhaps in understanding their ingenuity and resilience, you can find a unique sense of retrospective, relaxation in your own present moment. Think about the profound comfort of turning on a tap and knowing that clean, safe water flows freely. The ease with which you can hydrate without a second thought, this everyday miracle, so mundane to us, was an unimaginable luxury for them. Your mind, my friend, can find peace in observing the intricate, peculiar ways humans have always found solutions to their challenges. Let the strange stories of these forgotten customs gently carry you into your own deep restorative slumber. May this journey bring you a profound sense of tranquility. May it offer you a gentle invitation to your own deep restorative rest, cradled in the security of your modern world. If this quiet exploration brought you comfort, please consider subscribing to our channel for more journeys into tranquil, forgotten history. We'll continue to explore more paths to serenity together. Close your eyes now, my friend, and find your own peaceful slumber. Good night. As you drift off to sleep, let the echoes of medieval life fade away, replaced by the soft hum of your modern world, gentle whir of your air conditioner, the faint glow of your digital clock, the comforting weight of your clean, fresh sheets. These are the luxuries our medieval ancestors could never have imagined yet. In their own way, they found comfort in the rhythms of their daily lives, just as we do in ours. As you settle deeper into your bed, feel the weight of centuries lifting from your shoulders, the struggles and triumphs of those. Long ago, people have shaped our world in ways we may never fully comprehend. But tonight, you don't need to understand. You only need to rest, to breathe deeply and let the cares of your day melt away, just as the medieval folk did when they gathered around their hearths at the end of a long day's labor. Remember that in every age, humans have sought moments of peace, moments of connection, moments of simple joy. Whether it was a medieval peasant savoring a sip of home-brewed ale, or you finding comfort in this quiet moment of reflection, the human need for tranquility remains constant across time. Let that thought wrap around you like a warm blanket, soothing your mind and easing you towards sleep. As we part ways for tonight, know that you carry with you a small piece of history, a whisper from the past that reminds us of our shared humanity, our resilience, and our endless capacity for adaptation. May it bring you comfort and inspire sweet dreams of simpler times and enduring human spirit. And so, my friend, as the last echoes of our medieval journey fade away, I bid you a peaceful good night. May your dreams be as sweet as the ale our ancestors brewed, and may you wake refreshed, ready to face your own modern adventures with the same courage and ingenuity that carried our forebears through their challenging times. Until we meet again in another quiet corner of history, sleep well and dream of the endless tapestry of human experience that connects us all